what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into the Couch Media Course channel again. My name is Andres, and today we're going to be talking about the Batman. That's just a sigh of utter satisfaction, happiness, and just amazement. DC, I love you. You bring these emotions out of me like no other. The Batman has finally dropped, and it is the most Batman movie ever. I really love this movie. So without further ado, let's get into some of the pros and cons of the movie.
Pros versus cons.
All right, so the first pro of the movie, and one that I think was probably the most shocking to me, was how damn good Robert Pattinson was as Batman. Holy shit. This guy literally murdered the whole role. It was insane how much he just like physically transformed himself into the Batman. Like, it was super surprising, man, because I think just like how Ben Affleck was casted as Batman, I was like, no, like, God, I didn't like the casting at all. Same with Robert Pattinson. As like when they first announced Robert Pattinson as Batman, I was like, oh God, this is gonna suck. Because I was already super high on it since Matt Reeves was directing it. I was like, man, this is gonna be dope. And then the news that Robert Pattinson was casted as Batman, I was like, oh shit. But that was just like my little ignorance peeking through, because, you know, we all had that little stigma of him being in the Twilight movies, and that's honestly kind of what we all saw him as. But I expanded my mind, I opened my eyes, and I started watching his movies. And then I realized that this guy is an amazing actor. Crazy. I don't know why I was like so put off with him. That's how crazy the impact Twilight had on him. Like, it literally dictated what I saw when it came to movies from him. Like, I wouldn't watch any of his shit because of Twilight, which is insane because I didn't even see Twilight. I just saw clips and things like that on YouTube, and it looked so awful that I just didn't want to watch anything that had Robert Pattinson in it. Like, it had such a bad stigma. But man, this guy, he fucking killed it. This version of Batman was so good and so refreshing, man. I love the fact that this Batman was taking place 2 years into his career. So we kind of had like a fresh Batman in the world of crime fighting and detective stuff. And it was also nice that they kind of skipped over his parents getting murdered. Like, that's one of the problems I have sometimes with the Batmans. Like, they just show his parents getting murdered too many times. Like, yo, we get it. Your parents died. Like, we don't have to fucking constantly see that shit over and over again. But this movie was actually dope because he was already in 2 years into his crime fighting and all that stuff. The world was already set, you know. We didn't have to see him go through that trauma again and all that crazy stuff. And he was already Batman, you know. He was already in vigilante mode. So that was really nice to see and so refreshing. Like, Robert Pattinson brought a level of like acting to this Batman that was crazy. Like, I don't think any actor who's played Batman has quite drawn out the performance that Robert Pattinson did for his Batman. Like, his interactions with every character in the movie was perfect. Like, it just felt seamlessly. Everything he did just felt right. He had amazing like range too for Batman. You have very serious scenes when he just shows up to a crime scene and he's very serious and very quiet, like Batman would be, and he only talks to Jim Gordon, and he's very observant. He's looking around for clues and things like that. And then there's even parts of like those scenes where he'll pick up on something like in the foreground or like something on the floor, and then the forensics people will be like, oh shit, what the fuck is he looking at? Let me snap a couple pictures of him. Like, did he pick up something that I didn't? So little things like that was pretty dope to see as Batman in like detective mode, you know? And there'll be other scenes where he'll just be very like trying to withhold his emotions. Like, there was actually this really dope scene, kind of like more towards the end of the movie, where the Riddler was imprisoned already, and he called for Batman to come see him and talk to him. And that was a dope ass scene where we got to really see Batman in a full range of the emotional spectrum. Like, it started off, you know, very serious, where he just walks into the room and he's just analyzing stuff, and then the Riddler starts speaking and telling him his plan and what he had cooked up, and kind of divulging a lot of information on the Waynes and the Arkhams, and also almost like kind of like hinting that he knew that Batman was Bruce Wayne, but also not. So that little scene was crazy because Robert was going from very serious to, oh shit, this guy might know that I'm Batman. So he got very like shelled up and very like kind of like not looking up at the cameras that were in Arkham, or like kind of like stepping into the light. He was in the shadows, so they couldn't make out his face. Then the Riddler said something that kind of triggered Batman's mind in thinking that, oh shit, this guy doesn't know who I am. And then the whole scene changed right there. His body language got, you know, he got a little more confident. He walked into the light, and then he started talking face to face with the Riddler. And then after that, the Riddler starts to tell him about a plan that he still has cooked up, and like that Batman didn't know about it. So then Batman gets pissed. So like you see this whole range of emotions in like a 10-minute scene, like that is crazy. Also, I really liked his portrayal of Bruce Wayne. Even though his Bruce Wayne wasn't in the movie that much, he was probably in the movie for like 30 minutes as Bruce Wayne. I felt like his Bruce Wayne was perfect for what it needed to be. You know, like, this is Bruce Wayne in full vigilante mode. He doesn't give a shit about anything but being the Batman right now. So him being like kind of a closed in person and like barely leaving the mansion, and then little subtle details that when he's like talking to Alfred, like, you know, in the grand hall or whatever at the table, the sun comes peeking in, and he's like kind of like, you know, blinded by the sun because he's not used to seeing it. He's always in the dark. He has his contact lenses on that go into like this detective mode stuff, so he's not used to seeing the light like like a normal human being would. Like, it's kind of like how Neo was in the Matrix when Morpheus told him like, your eyes are gonna hurt because you have never used them properly. So it was kind of like that. He wasn't a playboy philanthropist at all. He was just like hell-bent on vengeance. Like, he didn't care about any of that stuff. There was even some dialogue between him and the mayor at a funeral scene in the movie that the mayor was like, hey, you should with all this name and wealth, you should be doing more philanthropy for your city, and you could be helping it out more. And he's just like, I don't give a fuck. He's just like looking around, trying to like survey the area, and like totally not in the moment. He's just so like anxious, and he's so like kind of paranoid, I would say, like, because he's always on the lookout. Riddler's causing mass hysteria around the city, so he's Batman at the same time, so he can't really be focused on being that, you know, that rich playboy guy, you know, that's like, yucking it up with all the higher ups and the rich people. He's just so focused on bringing like justice and stability to like Gotham, so he's so invested in that. And I felt like it fit perfectly in his movie. Like, it would be weird if he was like all like chummy and shit like that, but it just felt perfect. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, I think, the first Batman that didn't kill anybody. You might say he might have killed some people in the car chase with the Penguin, but it wasn't deliberate killing. He actually, in the later like final act of the movie, he actually saved the freaking thugs that were like attacking Madison Square Garden or Gotham Square Garden at the end of the movie. He didn't let them fall to their deaths. He actually like grapple hooked them and made sure that they didn't die after he like punched the shit out of them and like kicked them off the scaffolding and all that stuff. Because every other Batman, I think, live action Batman has killed. Michael Keaton, he fucking blew somebody up with dynamite. And he kicked somebody off a tower and hit like down the tower, the bell tower, or whatever the hell you call that shit. Val Kilmer, I don't remember if he killed anybody. I haven't seen that in so long. Christian Bale's definitely killed some people when he killed those garbage guys, those garbage truck henchmen, when he like drove the Batmobile underneath it and it crashed into the ceiling. Those guys were flattened and killed. He killed pretty much the whole League of Assassins in the first movie. He's killed a lot, and then obviously Ben Affleck's killed deliberately. He's fucking shot people with machine guns. Blew up their cars in Batman vs Superman. So I think this is actually the first Batman to not kill and actually follow his rule of no killing, which is applaudable, because one of the biggest ideals for the Batman is the no kill rule, and a lot of the live action Batmans do kill. So the fact that this Batman didn't kill was pretty damn awesome and lived up to the comic accurateness of it. And also Robert Pattinson's Batman was like, I think, the most heroic Batman we've seen in live action. Meaning, usually when in the live action movies, Batman is usually saving fucking Rachel or some type of love interest, and he's not really helping the people on the ground floor. You know, all this crazy stuff happens with the Joker and the old school Penguin and then the Riddler and Two-Face, and all this crazy shit happens to the city, but he never, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've never stuck around to like help the little people, you know, like, or like kind of clean up the mess that they made, or just help a civilian out or anything like that. I feel like they've always saved the city by, you know, kind of like stopping the villain, and then everything else is up to the authorities and the first responders and military or whatever the hell the case may be, to like fix up all the damages and crazy shit that's happened. And that's just from my recollection of like the previous live action movies. I don't think I've ever seen any of those Batmans like actually help out the citizens. But on the other hand, this Batman actually helped and was on the ground floor, and he was doing shit to save these people and actually putting in like the footwork to actually change Gotham for the better. Because at the beginning of this movie, he was so filled with rage and like vengeance that he didn't really kind of see the bigger picture of like helping Gotham. He just wanted to beat the shit out of these thugs and villains and criminals and like just, you know, rid them of the streets. But that's not enough. There's actually a really good depiction of that in the beginning when those like clown posse dudes try to jump and beat up one of the civilians, and then, you know, Batman comes and saves them and stuff like that. And then the guy just got saved by Batman. He was gonna get killed probably, or just beat to within an inch of his life, and he's terrified of Batman. The civilian's like, oh wait, don't hurt me and shit like that. And then also Batman's body language is bad too, because he looks at him, he doesn't even try to help him up, like try to pick him up from the ground or anything like that. He just looks at him and then just bounces like. And that's at the beginning of the movie. But then as shit gets crazier and his will is tested and his whole like mental state is tested and what he stands for is tested, like he starts to change little by little. Towards the end of the movie, the Riddler has some of his followers take over like Gotham Square Garden, and then Batman comes in, beats the shit out of them, you know, the usual Batman style, and stops their plans. But there's this one dude the GCPD actually gets to capture and kind of like reveal his mask. They were all dressed up in the same costume as the Riddler was, so they unmask the guy and they ask him, "Who are you?" And then he says, "I am vengeance." That was one of the lines that this Batman said in the beginning of the movie when he beat the hell out of those people. That was like kind of like his coin of term to like be like, yo, I'm vengeance, so don't fuck with me. Now you got villains using your lingo and your one-liners, and then he starts to realize like, oh shit, I gotta change my way of thinking and my way of doing. I gotta do this better. And then to top it off, the Riddler's plan of the bombs, they go off, they flood the city, and then now Batman has to spring into hero mode. And without second guessing, he puts his own life at risk, and he saves a couple of civilians that were down below in the flooding when he cuts a power line that was dangling. So he cut it so they wouldn't get electrified, and that was all in a matter of seconds. Like, it didn't take too much time or anything like that. He just sprung into hero action, and he decided to make a choice. Like, I'm gonna help these people in the right way. And then it gets even more poetic after that. He regains consciousness and turns on the flare and goes to help these people that are trapped underneath some debris and stuff like that. And at first, some of the people are tentative to like actually reach out and take his hand for help, but then a kid reaches out, and it was one of the kids from the earlier scenes in the movie. He went from fearing the Batman to actually trusting the Batman and taking his hand so he could get him out of this debris. And you see Batman just guiding the people through the wreckage and the water, and it was such a beautiful moment. It's like, and you see Batman carrying a lady that was all hurt and stuff like that towards the military guy, and then they chop her up, and then he's just looking at her until, you know, she's safe. And then the monologue at the end is like so beautiful, where like he's saying, I gotta be better, I have to be more than just vengeance, I have to be a symbol of hope, and I have to actually put the groundwork in, and I actually have to do this. I can't just beat the hell out of people and expect Gotham to change, you know? I have to make Gotham a better place, and I had to do it by example, which was pretty damn crazy. I don't think I've ever seen that in any of the live action Batmans, to that extent of like him being on the ground floor and actually helping people, which is fucking insane. I love that scene so much, and it was just a crazy comic accurate thing that I loved and I enjoyed so much. All right, so the next pro for me is obviously Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Man, she was amazing. She fucking killed it as Catwoman. Just like how Robert Pattinson embodied the role of Batman, Zoe Kravitz embodied the role of Catwoman. It was so beautiful to see them together, and their chemistry was amazing. I really enjoyed this version of Catwoman, man. She was on par with Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns. I think Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman was amazing. She was really good. And I think Zoe Kravitz was just as good, or if not a little better. I enjoyed how she wasn't really a damsel in distress, you know, like she could take care of herself and she wasn't really relying on anybody. But also she was a flawed character. You know, she had a lot of issues that were kind of killing her on the inside that she was, you know, trying to take care of throughout the movies. And she had like, you know, like the Catwoman-esque mannerisms, like the, you know, the smooth walking. And then she had one of those scenes when she first encountered the Batman, where she was just, you know, like very cat-like and had her little safe cracking kid, and she was just very elusive and very Catwoman-y, like, you know. And also, it was just like Pattinson, she was so good in the emotional spectrum. She would have scenes, she could turn at the drop of a dime. She could turn from, you know, chumming it up with these freaking corrupt officials at the club, like trying to egg them on and, like, you know, like trying to like seduce them into giving her information, and then at the drop of a dime she'll be serious and change her whole attitude when she sees Carmine Falcone or shit like that. It was so dope. And then other scenes she could be very emotional too, like, you know, to the point of crying also. So like, she was a very real character with very real emotions throughout the whole movie. She wasn't like one of those like kick-ass girl, I'm not afraid of shit, you know. She was just like a real person where that she can be confident, she can be vulnerable, she can be, you know, kick-ass, or she had everything in the movie. She kicked ass in the movie. She had very emotional scenes with Batman and other characters in the movie. She was just overall amazing. I mean, there's nothing more I can say than just her. Zoe Kravitz was phenomenal. Like, she's such a great actress. I loved it. And I honestly want to see more of her. I hope this is not the last time we see her. Obviously, there's going to be more in store for her because there's already talks of a sequel, and they're already planning it. And we have a Penguin show that got greenlit for HBO Max, so who knows? She might make an appearance there. And then we also have what used to be the GCPD show that Matt Reeves said kind of evolved into like an Arkham Asylum show. So she might make an entrance there. or we'll just see her in the sequel of the movie. So definitely though, I need Zoe Kravitz back as Catwoman because she was amazing. That's one casting that I did not have a problem with in the beginning. Like the minute they announced her as Catwoman, I was like, I'm sold. I got no objections. I'm in. I've watched a lot of her movies in the past, so I was already familiar with what she can produce. So I was like, yo, I already feel it. She's gonna be an amazing Catwoman, and of course she delivered and put on a phenomenal performance. I loved it. All right, so the next pro for me is Paul Dano as the Riddler. I mean, that guy was so good. He was freaking insane, and I totally loved it. I really, really loved the direction that they took this Riddler in. Matt Reeves had such a good way of portraying the Riddler, because to me, and this is just my opinion, sometimes the Riddler is fucking really, really goofy and cheesy as shit. He's so grandiose, and sometimes some of his plans and his motives are really dumb, honestly, in the comic. He just wants to be known as, like, I don't know, the most intelligent person, and like he doesn't really have any motives like for anything else. He's just really intelligent, and he wants people to know that. He has a giant ego, and he wants people to feed it with his puzzles and shit like that, which is kind of honestly stupid. It's stupid when you translate it into live action. In the comic book world, it's awesome because you use your imagination and things like that, and it fits in a comic book world. But in live action, I don't think that would translate well, so.
Just a friend, but you can call me the Riddler.
Those little subtle changes that they made to his origin and the way he was amazing. I love that serial killer, like Zodiac vibe that he had going, which is a weird thing to say out loud. I love the Zodiac killer. But it was perfect. It matched the world, and it was a nice change, because if they would have had it the other way, it would have been so dumb. I like that he was kind of like an insane character, somebody that does belong in Arkham. He had his motives, and he felt like he was never seen. Kind of like what we witness in real cases of serial killers, that there's always sometimes some trauma in their past life, or they felt neglected and things like that, and that drives them to do these crazy murders and things like that. It was a crazy dope way for Matt Reeves to like incorporate real serial killers and crime stuff into this movie. There was a heavy like Zodiac killer influence, even from the symbols that the Riddler had written in his notes. They were kind of similar to like the symbols that the Zodiac killer had left behind for the cops to decipher and stuff like that. And also in this movie, the Riddler would do that too, try to like play games with the cops, like giving them clues of what he was gonna do next, and like handwritten notes to the Batman to try to like have him play along with the shit that he was doing. And it was really good. One little detail that I really did like from this Riddler was that he didn't want to play too many games, if you know what I mean. Like, he didn't really give Batman a choice to like stop what he was gonna do, you know? Like usually in the comics or in the animated movies or whatever the hell it may be, when we see the Riddler, he's like, solve this riddle and save this person's life, you know? Like, no, that wasn't the case. This person's dead already, so here's a riddle, try to solve this shit so you can see who's the next person I'm gonna kill, because I'm gonna do it. You know, like there wasn't no game like that type. There wasn't no Riddler-esque game where he would be like, you know, if you solve 1 + 1, I won't drop this fucking official in a vat of acid, you know? Like, it was none of that shit. Paul Dano's Riddler had a total understanding of what he wanted to do, and he was gonna accomplish that goal with or without Batman. He just wanted he just needed Batman to like do some of the muscle, you know, like, and play along with him a little bit, kind of help him, you know, flesh out his plan. This Riddler was totally capable of doing everything, and he was going to do it because of his past traumas and what he went through, and what he wanted to get across, and how he felt about the city of Gotham. So I don't know, man, this Riddler was fucking perfect. And I'm glad they didn't kill him. He just got locked up in Arkham Asylum, so that gives us an opportunity to see him in the future. There's probably 100% chance that we'll see him in the Arkham Asylum spin-off show on HBO Max, which is amazing, and I can't wait for that. But round of applause for Paul Dano for bringing an insane, crazy, terrifying Riddler to the big screen. He did an amazing job, and I think he's had some practice before in his previous movies, like in Prisoners. That's basically the Riddler right there. But yeah, no, he was freaking amazing, and I can't wait to see what they do with him next. All right, on to the next pro, and that one is pretty much everybody else that was in the movie, the rest of the cast. Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon was damn good. I know he was gonna be good, but I didn't think he was gonna be that good. You know, he freaking channeled the essence of Jim Gordon to the T, man. He was so involved in the crime scenes, and he had that beautiful, like, fresh relationship with Batman, where he was like kind of like tentative about Batman, but also trusted him as well. And then he like oozed that incorruptible cop, you know, essence, and just like a quality human being. You know, he oozed that in his performance, and his performance was very real. Like, it's something that you would see in a real detective, in a real person, that the way he acted to some of the crime scenes, and like was in a real natural way. Like, oh shit, don't, like, what the fuck is this? He was a good detective too. Like, he was on the scene trying to decipher stuff with Batman, and like he was like the only person sticking up for Batman as well, which is something we see in the comics a lot too. And it was so refreshing to see this take on Jim Gordon. And he had a couple funny ass scenes too with the Batman. He kind of had like that old school cop vibe to him from, I don't know what era that was, the 70s or 80s, where they'd be like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna put you in a slammer, you see, or you know, that type of shit. But it was funny. It came off natural, and it came off so good. And I really loved his performance, man. And I think that's saying a lot, because Gary Oldman's Commissioner Gordon in the Nolan series was fucking phenomenal. That guy was so damn good in that movie. It was crazy. But yeah, I feel like this Jim Gordon is right up there. This is his first movie, and he did so damn good. Jeffrey Wright killed it, I think. And hopefully, we do see him in the Arkham series, because that started off as a GCPD show, and now Matt Reeves said it kind of evolved into an Arkham Asylum series, kind of like a horror type series. So hopefully we do see him interact with the Arkham patients, and like, you know, he comes and studies them, or whatever the hell detectives do when they visit an insane asylum. But yeah, I really did enjoy his performance. Colin Farrell as the Penguin, holy shit, that was freaking insane. This guy, honestly, he should be nominated for an Oscar, at least for the transformation that he did on this character. Like, if you didn't see the casting, or you didn't know like who was playing who in the movie, and you didn't check the IMDb or whatever, you would not know that this is Colin Farrell. That's how good he was, and that's how crazy good of a job the makeup department did when they designed this character and this version of the Penguin. And it was mind-blowing, honestly. Colin Farrell completely transformed himself, and he acted so different from any other role he has done. Like, he had a lot of the essence of the Penguin too, like from the comic books, because we all know in the books, the Penguin is like one of the most respected gangsters in Gotham. Like, people don't really fuck with him like that, because he's so well respected, and he's such a good planner, and he's such a good like talker, and he knows how to get his way with things, and he's just like the ultimate gangster leader, whatever, you know what I mean? So he really had like that essence. And I really like this early version of the Penguin, because he was second to Carmine Falcone in this movie, but you can see little hints here and there of him trying to like kind of move up in the ranks to eventually be his own crime boss, you know, like do his own thing. And you saw little hints of that throughout the movie, and he was hilarious too, man. He had some like good ass like Sopranos type funny lines, like you know, those those gangsters always be saying some funny ass shit. And he had like that scene that he shared with Jim and Batman, and when he like kind of like deciphered a clue for Jim and Batman, like kind of calling them stupid, like what the hell's wrong with you, and like you don't know you're Latin or whatever, la la cha la la, and like he was so good, man. It was so believable, and like I said in the beginning, like this cast was like so perfect together. They all played off each other amazingly. It was so good. I loved it. Colin Farrell killed it, man. I really am excited for his series now, because there's so many possibilities and so many things they can do with him now. Because the movie ended off with like a kind of like a power grab at the end of it, where Gotham is left like in shambles, flooded, and Carmine Falcone is out of the picture now. So the Gotham Underground is going to be rising up and trying to, like, you know, take their seat. Everybody's going to be fighting for that seat of power. So, and you know, he's going to want to be the one that's on top at the end of it. So that's going to be a series that's going to be so dope, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. And it's funny too, because when they announced those 2 series, I was kind of pissed. I was like, damn, man, like who the fuck wants to see a show about the Penguin and the GCPD? Like, I want to see a fucking Batman show on HBO Max, man. So like, cause everybody gets a show besides Batman, like literally everybody. But after seeing these portrayals of Jim Gordon and the Penguin, I'm so excited for this. I love that they shut me up and sat my ass down and was like, yo, look at these characters. This is why we greenlit these series in the beginning, in the first place. We knew what the hell we was talking about. These characters are amazing, and you're gonna love every second of them. And that played out to be true. So I'm very excited for what their future holds, man, for these 2 characters. Another cool thing that I really liked, that I feel like some superhero movies are lacking, is the rest of the character, like the rest of the world. Sometimes these superhero movies feel very contained. Like there's no world outside of the superhero stuff. Like there's no civilians, or there's no cops, or you know, no army, or none of that shit. And there's like world-ending threats happening, and there's none of those people are like none of those people are in sight. You know, there's nobody around. But in this movie, I really did enjoy like the cops and the detectives and some of the civilians that were interacting with the characters, especially like on the crime scenes. You would see like people reacting to Batman in a real way. Some cops would be quiet in the background. Some cops would be vocal about how they feel about Batman being at a crime scene. Like, yo, what the fuck is going on, man? He's contaminating the scene or whatever. Just real reactions and real emotions coming from all the extra characters. Like, it just felt like so connected, and it felt good. This world of Batman, this Gotham felt so good. Like, it just felt perfect. Everything was so connected and well crafted, and everything fit like a nice little puzzle, like the Riddler would do. But yeah, it just felt amazing. This whole world felt amazing, and all the extras were so good too. Also, this is a funny one, but I felt like the Batmobile was a character in itself. I remember reading Matt Reeves saying that he wanted the Batmobile to feel like a character that was haunting the villains, like the criminals. And that was so true in the movie. Oh my God, that fucking Batmobile was amazing. And it's like, at first I really didn't like how the Batmobile looked. It just, not that I didn't like it, it just looked normal to me. It looked like a little muscle car, you know, like before the movie was released. But man, that introduction scene of the Batmobile was freaking crazy. One of the coolest Batmobile scenes in any Batman movie. It was so damn dope. It was like a character in itself. It was a high tense scene in the movie where the Penguin was at a drug drop, and Batman was trying to do some surveillance on him. Catwoman just showed up to do her own thing, trying to steal that money. And Jim Gordon was there, teamed up with Batman, and they just broke out into a shootout. And you know, the scene's getting tense, and then Catwoman's hiding behind the car, and she's just about to get found out by the Penguin, and she's like fear for her life. And then in the distance, you hear like a crazy ass screech from hell. And then like the camera pans over, and it's the Batmobile revving up, starting up, and it's like freaking terrifying, because you see just this darkness, and then you see like a blue light coming from the back, the exhaust, and it feels like this car is alive, you know, and is making its grand entrance. And man, it was so damn good. And then it led into one of the coolest car chase scenes ever, in my opinion. That shit was beautifully crafted and just so visually pleasing and so atmospheric, and it was so great. The Batmobile was so dope, man. Matt Reeves killed it with this movie, man. I love this movie so much. But yeah, that Batmobile was so dope. You guys know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. It was kind of like a character in itself, and Matt Reeves talking about it in that article, like he wanted a car to feel like its own entity and its own character. And he was like kind of inspired by Stephen King's book, I think Christine, where it's like a car that's like killing people, I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. Elaborate it on that, because I don't know too much about it, but I know it's about like a car that took on a life of its own, and I think started killing people. But if you know about that book, comment below more details on it. But yeah, it really did feel like it was its own character, and it was so beautiful. Another pro, and this was a pro from the beginning, from the first shots, like the first images released and like the trailers, was the look of the movie. I mean, this was like a masterclass in cinematography, and it was so beautiful, man. Greg Fraser, he's the cinematographer for this movie. Like, man, he just outdid himself, man. He fucking killed it. He also did, I think, Rogue One, which was another Star Wars movie that I loved. One of the new Star Wars movies that I loved, and it looked beautiful too. And this movie, man, like him and Matt Reeves pairing up was like just a recipe for a beautiful looking movie. I was never distracted by anything that was going on. Nothing took me out of the movie. I was immersed in this world, in this Gotham that they build for 3 hours straight. Like, I did not skip a beat. The CGI for the movie was perfectly used, not too much. Sometimes, honestly, I didn't know what was CG and what was real. That's how good and perfectly crafted this movie was, and like well put together. Like, there was shit that you couldn't tell if it was CG or not, you know? I mean, besides like some of the obvious scenes where Batman is like flying, that one I think that is practical, but then he hits like a bridge, his chute hits like a bridge, and obviously that's CG. But man, the movie is just like perfectly made. It's just handled with such care, and you can see it. And they also use some of those ILM LED screens, and that, I think that is changing the game of filmmaking and TV show making and whatever it may be. The creation of those screens is probably the best thing that could ever happen to a movie, man, because they're getting these amazing looking shots, like all those shots on the building where Catwoman and Jim Gordon and Batman are meeting up and, you know, discussing their plans and stuff like that. All those shots aren't real. Like the background is those ILM screens, like, and it's just perfect because they can capture a real environment on the screens, and they can project real lighting, and the actors have something to look at, and it's just like that technology is one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and I love that movies and TV shows are starting to use it now. Like, it's such a beautiful thing, and that's why this movie looks so damn nice. This Gotham looked amazing too. It felt like I was in Gotham, you know? Like, it just felt gritty, and it felt like this world actually existed. Sometimes in the previous movies, you just felt like, actually no, the Gothams have been pretty good, honestly. The only Gotham that was kind of like regular was the Nolan Gothams. That was just Chicago. But Tim Burton's Gothams was really good. That shit was a whole set piece, and it was beautiful. Even I think even Val Kilmer's Gotham was cool because they had all these crazy buildings that were made for the movie. So yeah, scratch that. The Gothams have been amazing, but this Gotham was pretty damn good, man. It felt like a real world, felt gritty, felt like there was no hope for it, just how Gotham usually is. And it was just great, man. I loved it. what a beautiful looking movie. It was just crazy to just sit through a movie for 3 hours and not feel like you're distracted by bad CG or ugly looking colors or anything like that. It was just pure engagement from start to finish for me, and that's crazy because it's hard to keep people's attention nowadays. Like when you're watching a movie, you're either looking at your phone or something might take your attention off, like bad CG, and that's usually the case sometimes with these big movies. They do have badass CG, man. Sometimes to the point where I'm like, geez, that looks fucking horrible. So now I'm taken out of this world. But man, this was really a masterclass in filmmaking and like a masterclass in cinematography, man. They really killed it with this. Oh yeah, and I also want to talk about how beautifully crafted this Batman suit was. I guess that falls into the look of the movie too. And just gives me more of a reason to talk about Batman. I think that this Batman suit is probably the dopest looking Batman suit, honestly. This was one of my favorite. This one is my favorite. I'm gonna say that. This is my favorite Batman suit out of all the live action ones. This one is just like perfectly crafted because I think this is the movie that has the most Batman in it. I think the camera's always on the Batman, so they have to make a suit that looks beautiful. They can't cut corners, and I feel like the choices they made for this suit fit perfect, and it just added to the look. All the other iterations of Batman suits had struggled with the neck portion of it. It was always like just one solid ass neck piece, and I feel like that always kind of made the character look a little goofy and always made the actor move stiff in the suit. They even had that. They even brought it up in the Nolan movies. Like the first suit was stiff, so they kind of like removed that a little bit and made it like more agile for Christian Bale in the second movie. But yeah, I think this suit was the best one ever, man, because it had the nice cowl, but then they kind of made like the neck area skin tight, but they had the nice touch of the collar / cape, which kind of hid the look of the neck, because if it didn't have that collar around it, the neck would be like skinny as hell, and it would look weird as hell. Like it would kind of look lollipop-ish. But I feel like the additions of the collar and the cape just fits so perfectly, and it just made the suit look so good. It's just damn cool, man. It's just a beautiful looking suit. And I know everybody had like their opinions about the gauntlets and how they look and stuff like that, but honestly, those gauntlets look so damn dope. And they had a purpose. Those were the harpoons that he put into the grappling gun that he shot off, so he kept them close by so he can access them and reload when he's done. So they actually served the purpose, so that was super dope. And the emblem, what an emblem. Like, it's not my favorite design of the emblem, but the look of it and the use of it is so damn dope. Like, I think this was such an early stage of Batman that I don't think he had batarangs, so he had nothing to throw. So I think he would use that because it was detachable in the film. He would use it like to cut through like a crime scene and make his way through, or that's what he used at the end of the movie when he cut the power line to save those people. And it was just beautiful. So he had that, his batarang attached to his chest piece, kind of like magnetic, so it was dope. He would use it like a knife, and it was super sick. But yeah, the Batman suit, definitely a 10 out of 10 Batman suit, and I loved it so much. Another thing that goes without saying, really, and it's a pro, was the score, man. The score for this movie was beautiful. It just, I keep saying it, but everything was perfectly crafted. Hence why like Matt Reeves was like going insane, and like some of the actors, some of the cast was like actually worried for his health, because he was putting so much time and work into this movie that they were like legit worried about his health. So that lets you know how much he was putting in and how good he wanted this movie to be. And the composer, man, Michael Giacchino. I think if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm so sorry, but Michael Giacchino, he murdered it. He was that Batman theme. Dun, 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 dun. It was so good. And then I really like that rendition of the main Batman theme in the car chase scene though, because it was slightly different. It would have that loud punch, dun, 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 and then it'll have a low moment where you can hear the car revving and weaving through traffic and stuff like that. And then when he put the pedal to the metal again, dun, dun, dun. So it all flowed so well, and all the music served a purpose too. There was no score that felt out of place in the movie. Everything served the purpose. All the music and the themes served the purpose, and added so much to scenes. Like that first scene where we see Catwoman introduced, like as she puts on her suit, you hear the Catwoman-esque elusive soundtrack in the background, and then they have little hints of, I think, strings, whenever she does a flip or something like that, and it just added to the scene, and it made me feel like I was back in Batman Returns, when I was watching Michelle Pfeiffer's scene. She had such a good score too. It was just those little strings and moment of silence, and then she'll make a movement, and then another sound will come in. It was very caddish. I mean, that's the only way to describe it. It was just so perfectly balanced, and like I said, every piece of music served a purpose in this movie, and it just added so much to the movie. It was beautiful, and the Riddler score was awesome too. It was kind of it's a little terrifying too, because it was such a beautiful piece, but of insanity. So I don't know. It was just beautiful. It was so good. Michael Giacchino just totally killed it composing this film. Round of applause, sir. You added so much to the film, and I loved it. All right, and now on to the cons. I have no cons. I honestly don't have cons for this movie. Yeah. I try to analyze it as much as I could and see something that I didn't like, but I liked everything in this movie, and I guess maybe if I want to nitpick and really be anal about something in this movie, it was probably one scene, and it's a spoiler scene, so if you don't, I've already talked mad spoilers already, but if you don't want to hear this part, it's a scene with the Joker. It wasn't a bad scene, it just felt a little bit off. Tone-wise, it just felt kind of little on the fantasy side compared to the rest of the movie, but it wasn't enough to take me out of the scene. Oh, this is so whack, or shit like that. It was actually kind of cool, but it was actually dope. It was just different from what we saw in the rest of the movie tone-wise, but it was still good. It was still cool to see the Joker interact with the Riddler, and Barry from the Eternals, Druig, and the Green Knight. He was in the Green Knight. He's actually playing the Joker, and that's pretty damn amazing. I love that choice for the Joker. But in terms of cons, I don't have anything, honestly. This shit was a masterpiece. Had a lot of influences from other comic books, like The Longest Halloween, obviously, Year One, and I think Ego was involved in this, and it even had some of the hints of 0 Year from the New 52 run of Batman. So it had a lot of inspiration, but it also felt very unique and fresh and its own entity. It almost felt like I just went to comic book shop to pick up a new book, a new run of Batman, and I read it and I was blown away by it. It just felt so perfect and aligned with what Batman is and what Batman should be. And I just want to say thank you, Matt Reeves, because you made a film that is like no other Batman movie, and honestly is one of my favorite comic book movies ever. And thank you so much for that, because trying to do Batman right must be one of the hardest things to do in terms of nerd fandom, please everybody. But man, this movie was perfect in my opinion. That shit was the most Batman thing I've ever seen. and it was just emotional, beautiful story. Like there was a lot of scenes where I was getting emotional, man. Especially that last scene when Batman became a hero for the first time and he realized he had to change his ways. Like can't do it the old way, like just beat people to a pulp. That shit's not gonna work. That shit made me emotional as hell. And so I had moments of emotion. I had moments of like pure nerdgasm, like oh shit, this is crazy. And then I had moments of tenseness when Batman was kind of like trying to help one of those DAs not get his head blown off at the funeral. Like that was a tense ass scene, and it was just so good. It's so like it made me feel everything, man. And I love this movie so much. But yeah, man, I'm so excited for the future of this this world and what they have cooking up, man. In terms of sequels, like there's so many things. They left it kind of in an open-ended place. There's so many ways they could take this in terms of villains. The movie ended with kind of like a hint at the Penguin maybe being the next like top dog. But since HBO Max actually is making his show, they greenlit it. We might see him come to power in that show and then eventually maybe get locked up and sent to like Arkham or Belle Reve, one of those prisons. And then in the Arkham series, we might see something else unfold. We might see the Joker and the Riddler maybe create an escape plan, or we might be introduced to other villains like Mr. Freeze, or other villains that make sense in this world, which would be amazing. They could also take it in another direction where they incorporate the Court of Owls storyline, because a lot of the stuff that the Riddler was doing and uncovering was very deep in like Gotham roots, and he was trying to go back and trying to expose all like the corruptness of Gotham. So if you know anything about the Court of Owls, you know that they're one of like the oldest crime syndicates in Gotham history. So they could always dive into that too. And even Robert Pattinson said it himself in, I think in an interview or an article, that he would like to see that storyline in the future. And honestly, me too. I love that book. That New 52 run of Batman was just incredible. I would love to see that in the live action world, and especially in Matt Reeves' hands, he can make that story amazing. So yeah, so many possibilities for this sequel, and I honestly do hope that they make more like spin-off TV shows of certain DC movies, because I think that's what Marvel is doing very, very well. Marvel's having those little Disney Plus shows to like make their movies even better, They can do so much storytelling in those shows, and then when it comes time to have your big movie, it's just like you don't have to introduce too many characters, you don't have to cram so much stuff, because everybody's already watched the show, so they know what's going on. So they can focus on making a dope-ass epic movie. I honestly hope that DC takes a page out of that. Hopefully they're on HBO Max. That's the only way I'll accept it, because I can't do CW anymore, man. I really want that shit to be gone and canceled, like done. It's like, that's not quality TV for me. And like, even they gotta get rid of all those people that work. Don't get rid of them, because like they're losing their jobs, which is not good. I want them to be employed and stuff like that, but they gotta shift their focus to having more quality shows, man, because even though Titans was like a HBO Max original, that shit had heavy influences from the CW teams, because I think they did work on it, and they had like the same showrunners that did the CW shows worked on Titans. But I don't know, I guess it all depends on the team too, because I think Doom Patrol has the same team, but Doom Patrol is a phenomenal show. And then shows like Peacemaker's so good right now. I just hope they have more shows to connect the universes, so that they don't have to have too much legwork to do in the actual film itself. Like, they don't have to cram so much shit so that people can understand what the hell's going on. They could just focus on that one epic movie type shit, or grand finale, or whatever the case may be. Can focus on that and make a good movie. I'm all with quality over quantity. I don't want to see 6 DC movies if they're all going to be shit. I take one movie a year if it's going to be phenomenal, and that I'm okay with that. Like, I want to see good ass movies that bring out these emotions out of me, and that make me want to rewatch it over and over again. I want to see real film. And that's what the Batman is. That movie is real film, and it's a masterpiece in my eyes. And yeah, I guess my final rating for the movie would be, I guess you guys probably could guess it already from what I've been talking about and how I've been talking about the movie, but this movie is a 10 out of 10 for me, man. I loved every second of it, man. As a Batman fan, as a Batman reader, and somebody that's indulged in like the animated stuff and the movies, this movie is just so good and so well made and so catered to Batman fans. Like, I love it. I'm just relieved too. I could like I didn't want to be, I was holding this movie to such a high standard, so I was kind of scared to watch it because honestly I didn't want to get let down, but this movie did not disappoint, and I'm so happy with it. I really am. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I mean, if you stick this far into the video, I just spoiled the whole movie for you, but just go check it out and watch it as many times as you can, because this movie is perfect. But yeah, like always everybody, I appreciate you tuning in, and if you stayed this long into the video, consider giving it a thumbs up. I would appreciate that a lot. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That means a lot to me, and it gets my channel out there into the world for more people to see, and I appreciate that too. Share the channel too with people that might enjoy this type of content. I would appreciate that as well too. I'm very appreciative of people liking, sharing, and watching my stuff, if you haven't noticed. But yeah, comment your thoughts on the movie. What did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Was it everything you wanted it to be? Leave all your thoughts below, and let's talk the Batman, because I'm on a Batman spree right now. I think I've tried to read as much articles as I can. I'm trying to watch the movie as much as I can. I'm going back and watching animated movies just to get my Batman fix. Like, I'm reading all the old comics I have, and I'm trying to get into the new runs. Like, I'm just on a Batman heavy cringe. I'm Batman spiraling right now. So I really love this movie, man, and it made me like want to get deeper into the Batman lore and explore other stories of Batman and stuff like that. So leave all your thoughts below, and yeah, like always everybody, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and like always, until we meet again on the next video, peace.